Oh, by the way, I had this great spiced rum the other night. They served it in this really
You know,
cool
speaking of spiced rum, I had some of the best spiced rum when I was in the Navy. I gotta tell you, we were on
Man,
deployment
why does
this
every
one time.
story of yours always end with the Navy?
And why does every story of yours begin with spiced rum?
Well, maybe it's the only way I can drown out your infernal rendition of Anchors Away.
Anchors away, me boys, anchors away.
Gosh, if only there was somewhere where I could drink a bottle of rum and swap stories about the Navy in the same place.
Wait.
Hey guys, really good to see you.
Hey, welcome.
Mark, it's good to see you. Arch, how you doing? Good to see you as well.
Arch, Mark.
All right, guys. Well, let's have a seat. Guys, Aaron and I are really interested to know what's the story of Old Line.
We're Navy buddies. We used to fly planes together. You know, both got out of the service to pursue civilian careers, and we fell into a very interesting opportunity almost as soon as we set out to start the business. In that we met a gentleman, or two gentlemen, on the West Coast who were Vietnam veterans, were Iraq, Afghanistan guys, and they had this very, very small but wonderful distillery called Golden Northwest Distillery out near Seattle. You know, in the retirement years, one of them, Jim, was terminally ill, and they were looking to just kind of pass it on. And so we ended up moving out and living with them and learning the trade. And everything you see here, for the most part, Arch and I have kind of built since then.
So you guys are from here originally?
I'm from Massachusetts.
I'm from Florida,
Wow.
yeah. But just the Navy brought us here together. For me, I liked Baltimore. Highlandtown was just the perfect place for us. It has that mix of residential and industrial and commercial, and we have easy access to Canton, Fells Point, downtown.
What got you into the Navy?
My father was in the Marine Corps. My grandfather's one was in the Army Air Corps. The other was a Marine. It's an exciting, adventure to embark upon. So
For me, it was either the judge says Navy or jail. For the same reason Mark did. I had my father, grandfathers, great-grandfathers were all did some service in the military. That was just what you did.
What's the experience that you want your customers to have?
a lot of people come in here on Friday nights and Saturdays and just kind of catch up. It's a nice kind of community anchor point. We're also very proud of being part of a community of distilleries in the state of Maryland. So we carry whiskeys and gins and rums and things made by other people who are, our competitors, but they're also our friends.
So where did the name Old Line come from?
In September of 1776, Washington and 10 or 11,000 loosely trained men in the Continental Army were up in Brooklyn, New York. The British arrived with 30,000-ish redcoats and quickly started to surround the Continental Army. Washington realized what was happening, and he used the Maryland Regiment to hold off the British long enough to make the escape. They took 98% losses. They saved the Army, and after that, Washington started referring to his Maryland line as his Old Line. Maryland is the Old Line state.
Well, now that you've been talking about everything that's out there on the other side of the wall, I think we're ready to take a look.
Sure.
Can we get a tour?
Let's do it.
So what we're doing at Old Line is a little bit different than what most other distilleries in Maryland are doing, and we're making single malt whiskey. And when you think single malt, most people think single malt Scotch. Exactly. But we're aging it in a very American style, which I'll tell you about in a few minutes. There's basically four steps to make this whiskey. And the first two are basically making a basic beer. So we're taking that grain, about 600 pounds of it, we're milling it up into what's called a grist. Okay. And that goes into this container here, which is our mash tun, is where we put the grain in here along with some water. The water gets heated up, and essentially what's happening is the starches are breaking down into sugar, because the sugar ultimately is what the yeast are going to consume to create alcohol. Okay. Right. So after maybe a half a day in here, that process is complete. We'll pump it into one of those four tanks behind you there. Those are our fermentation tanks. Okay. And once the product is cool enough for our yeast to survive, we'll put two types of yeast in there that will consume the sugars over 3 to 4 days. At the end of the 3 to 4 day period, you'll have a 6 or 7% solution known as a distiller's beer or a wash. From there, we'll pump it right over here to our pot still. So as you fill this up with the liquid, close the hatch and heat it up, different things will boil off at different times. And as those boil off, they'll travel up the still, and eventually all the way down to the end of the system where they'll get recondensed back into liquid form.
Oh, wow.
And we've basically isolated certain components of that mixture into what ultimately will be our whiskey. Once it comes off the still, we're going to add a little bit of water to it to bring it down to a very specific strength, which in our case is 60% alcohol, 120 proof, and it's going to go in the barrel. So we'll head on over to the barrel aging area next. Single malt Scotch traditionally almost always is aged in a second use barrel. We prefer that oak forward character, so what we're doing is taking that old world, non-smoky, single malt Scotch concept and we're putting it into a virgin oak barrel like a bourbon, and the end result is something that's very unique and wonderful. So the barrels are heat treated. The reason they do that is to break down the wood to allow all the flavors that are in the oak that we want to extract to be pulled out. You know, the liquid will seep into the wood and squeeze back out, and that's how you get all the color and a lot of the flavor.
What else kind of makes it so new? Why is it such a challenge to the kind of establishment that's already set?
So American whiskeys typically haven't used a lot of malt because it hasn't been really readily available. With the boom in craft brewing in the past 30 years, most of what they use is malted barley. So now that grain is far more accessible. So American distillers like us are starting to say, well, why can't we make a single malt just like the Scots do?
Right.
And again, we're just putting our own spin on it.
How close are you to unbarreling your next batch?
We bottled some today, actually. And we're constantly emptying and bottling. I said we probably bottle every few weeks. We just try to get a lot done to get us through the next month. And,
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty common occurrence. We'll set up right here in the middle of this room, actually. Bring all the equipment out and bottle, and 5 or 10 of us will get through a couple hundred cases and then move on to something else.
Well, we've heard a lot about this American single malt whiskey, and I'm ready to try it.
All right, well, I'll send you over to Arch at the bar.
All right, cool. Thanks a lot again, man.
Thanks,
really
gentlemen.
appreciate
Thanks
it so
so
much.
much.
All
Yeah,
right,
thank
guys,
you.
we're here with Arch right now, and Arch is going to take us through the tasting.
We'll start off with our 86 proof flagship American single malt whiskey. Get a little bit of our nose in there. Hopefully you're thinking about what Mark described with the grains and that virgin white oak, caramels and vanillas. When you're ready, we'll take a small sip.
Okay. That's very smooth. It's got a very, very nice, easy, light quality to it.
We prove it down to 86 proof for that exact reason. We want to be very approachable.
And this one's won some awards for you guys?
Yeah, we've won Best in Class at the Seattle International Spirits Awards and a couple other golds.
Okay, so what do we have next?
The next one's very special. We only bottle 200. What it is our Golden Edition American Single Malt. And this came from barrels that were filled by our predecessors, our mentors, Bob and Jim at Golden Northwest Distilling. It spent half its life in the Pacific Northwest, half here in the Mid-Atlantic.
And this is kind of a legacy, right? This is a legacy in the sense it's the last of the kind of the old guard, right?
Exactly, yeah. It's a passing of the torch.
So Bob and Jim. Now, one of the things I noticed right off the bat, it's got a very almost, I'd say, a mature flavor to it, in the sense that it's very broad.
Yeah, at 100 proof too. So it's got a little bit of horsepower.
It's strong, but in a good way. Like everything's real nice and hits you all at the same time.
That's right.
And what are we finishing off?
Yeah, let's round it out. What do we have here to end it?
So we're gonna transition down the Caribbean right now. This is our Navy Strength aged Caribbean rum at 114 proof. Predominant notes are vanilla and butterscotch. It's made from sugarcane or sugarcane byproducts, in this case molasses.
Right.
So it's gonna be a little bit sweeter.
Definitely butterscotch. Like that's right off the bat.
It's got such a wonderfully sweet candy flavor to it.
When you think about rums, a lot of times I think of like rum and coke or cocktails or something, and this seems like something, you could do it in a cocktail, or you could just drink it as it is, and it's great.
This is something that bartenders don't want to cover up. They want to allow it to shine.
Hopefully we will come back and visit you guys again in the future. We're excited to see what else you're coming out with.
No, this has been fantastic. We really appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
From the ambiance of the Naval Ready Room
To the steampunk-esque hybrid still.
and from the Liberty Risk cocktail served in a tiki glass
To a smooth, classy Manhattan, there's plenty to take in for all of your senses at Old Line Spirits.
From military officers to master distillers, Arch and Mark have translated their attention to detail as pilots into crafting some delicious spirits, each with a unique story to tell.
And if you'd like to visit the Old Line Distillery and swap some stories of your own, all the information you need is right below the video. Now, at the time of the filming of this episode, Veterans Day has just passed. So rather than leaving you with a toast, we thought we'd leave you with a great quote from President John F. Kennedy. Aaron?
Any man who may be asked in this century what he did to make his life worthwhile can respond with pride and satisfaction, I served in the United States Navy.
Thanks to all of our vets out there, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on Hops,
Grounds,
and Mash.